Hello everyone, and welcome to a standalone deck tech for the Brawl Project. This week is all about ways of combating Oko. I know a lot of people are frustrated with Oko in the Brawl metagame and are having difficulty dealing with Oko decks, but I think there are ways to beat him, and I think one such way is to use a deck built around Vraska, Golgari, Queen. Now, a lot of people have probably pointed out that Vraska's -3, destroy target non-land permanent with a convert mana cost 3 or less, can just kill an Oko outright, no matter how much loyalty Oko is on. This is definitely true, but I think that the power of this deck to combat Oko goes a good amount beyond that. Let's talk about Simic's axis of interaction. If your opponent's playing an Oko deck, they're limited to blue and green cards, which means that their interaction is limited to counter magic, bounce effects, enchantment-based removals, and fight effects. Now, people don't usually use fight effects in Constructed, understandably. If you get hit by a Death Sprout, Price of Fame, whatever, it blows the spell out. They're definitely going to be playing counter magic, and that is reasonably good against us, but they only have so much of it. And dealing with resolved threats, their options are to either bounce, which is only a temporary measure, or use enchantment-based removal. A lot of the cards that we're playing in this deck, Burglar Rat, District Guide, the Cavaliers, they have a lot of their value front-loaded to their enters the battlefield effect. And even if they get removed, they will still make an impact on the game. Plus, to combat enchantment-based removal, or Oko's +1, you can always sacrifice your permanent with Vraska, Golgari, Queen. Even if your opponent trades a food token for one of your creatures, you can sacrifice that food token for Vraska. So she is able to cash in on Oko's ability and also a lot of the removal that is available to the Simic decks, and turn that into more cards, which makes her match up really well against it. Furthermore, some of your threats, some of your big threats, are Planeswalkers, Liliana, Garruk, Vraska herself, and the Simic deck doesn't have good ways of interacting with Planeswalkers alone. They don't really, Green has some haste creatures for some reason, but there's no Murderous Rider, there's no Conclave Tribunal. It's difficult for them to deal with a resolved Planeswalker that has a few creatures blocking for it. So that's another reason why this deck fares well against Oko. Of course, the Oko deck isn't just going to sit idly by and let you present your threats. They're going to present threats of their own, in the form of large creatures most of the time. Being a black deck, you've got access to the best removal in the format, like Price of Fame, Death Sprout, Assassin's Trophy, Murderous Rider, and you shouldn't have too much trouble against a lot of the creatures that are being presented out of a blue-green deck. One other huge tool you have that I have to mention is Casualties of War. This card is absolutely insane in Brawl, and anytime you can play it, I think you should be playing it, just because it can get so much value. If your opponent is playing a Planeswalker commander, a lot of the time you can hit their commander as a Planeswalker, a creature they might have hanging around, their Arcane Signet, and a land. That is 4 cards, 4 out of the 5 possible cards you can get out of Casualties of War, and even if you can't get all 4, a lot of the time you can get at least 3. So this card is absolutely fantastic and is a strong draw to playing any deck that includes green and black, such as Vraska. Perfect. So I think this deck works really well against Oko. It's a pretty solid deck in general. I think that Vraska is one of the better commanders out there, but it does have its weaknesses. This deck is pretty slow. It has a few early plays, but they don't impact the board a tremendous amount. If your opponent gets off to a really fast start out of a deck like Tajik or out of Judith, you might run into some trouble because you also don't have any sweepers. You're relying on 1-for-1 removal. But they have to be really fast in order to get under you. It's still possible. The other thing is that it also doesn't close out a game very quickly, relying on these creatures that have utility effects and planeswalkers to do so. So if your opponent is going really big and they assemble a huge draw engine, or something like the Magic Mirror, or if they're trying to assemble, I don't know, the Guardian Project and then just draw a bunch of cards, or something like Chulane, then you might struggle with them because they can go over the top of you. But against most decks that are playing Oko, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. Look out for that article on StarCityGames.com on Monday. It should be up on Monday. It's going to be about how you can combat Oko in this metagame. Yeah, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to see more videos like this one. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.